Homage to Buddha Shakyamuni, homage to Manjushri, homage to all the lineage masters. Profound and subtle dharma is rarely encountered in eons. Now we can follow it. May we realize the Tathagata's meaning. To liberate all sentient beings, please generate unsurpassed bodhicitta. Next, we'll discuss the commentary on the secret essence Tantra. This overview can be divided according to its meaning. One is the various vast common Tantric classes, and the other is the essential profound uncommon Tantric classes. These are the two main divisions. First, the various vast common tantras. First, if explained according to the common general approach, when the limitless categories of tantra are synthesized into classes, there are 6 corresponding to the 5 classes of enlightened body, speech, mind, qualities, and activities, inseparable from the 6th class of Vajradhara, or the all-pervasive class of the Heruka. Originally, the tantric classes are vast and boundless. They can be divided from several perspectives. One approach is to divide them into 5 classes. From the 5-class perspective, the Tathagata manifests through body, speech, mind, qualities, and activities. When divided into these 5 classes, we have the 5 Buddha families of the East, South, West, North, and Center. In the center, according to Vajrayana, the wrathful deity is called Heruka. There are many wrathful forms. For example, in the fierce practice tankas of the 6 bardos, the all-pervasive Heruka class often appears. From the perspective of peaceful deities, there's the 6th class of Vajradhara. And the 5 Buddha families can be divided into different 5 classes, or 6 tantric classes. If we divide them according to the 5 classes, there are the Tathagata's activities, wisdom, form, and so on. Each has its own distinctions. All Tathagatas can also be included within the 6 classes of Tathagatas. In this way, we can also refer to these as the 6 tantric classes. According to their subject, there are 3 types. From the perspective of subject matter, since the magical manifestation matrix is taught from the vast perspective, the tantric teachings can be divided into 3 types. According to their subject, there are those tantras that emphasize method, those that emphasize prajna, and those that emphasize the wisdom of indivisible method and prajna. These 3 approaches are further described as the father, mother, and non-dual tantras, respectively. This point is very important in Vajrayana. As you know, Vajrayana is maintained through method and wisdom. Wisdom usually refers to ultimate truth, while method usually refers to conventional truth. Or we speak of wisdom and compassion, where wisdom addresses the aspect of emptiness, while compassion addresses the aspect of appearance. Appearance and emptiness are non-dual. In the sutras, texts like the Ornament of Clear Realization and other Prajnaparamita sutras also frequently discuss appearance and emptiness. Some texts primarily emphasize appearance, while others primarily emphasize emptiness. In Sutrayana, as you know, when we primarily discuss meditative equipoise wisdom, conventional truth and ultimate truth are non-dual and inseparable. It's based primarily on the realization determined by ultimate wisdom. During post-meditation, what we call the state after arising from meditation, there are both the pure perception of realized beings and the worldly valid cognition of ordinary beings. As you know, when Mipham Rinpoche makes these distinctions, at that time there's appearance and emptiness, purity and equality and so forth. Sometimes in Vajrayana, understanding these points is quite necessary. In Vajrayana, when a tantra focuses mainly on the generation stage or the appearance aspect, it's called a father tantra. Of course, within the father tantras, there's also the completion stage, but the main teaching focuses on the generation stage, or the teaching that primarily emphasizes the aspect of appearance. These tantras are called father tantras. The tantras that primarily teach the completion stage and emphasize wisdom and emptiness are called mother tantras. Whether appearance and emptiness, or wisdom and great compassion, or the generation and completion stages, they harmoniously integrated without contradiction. This is called non-dual primordial wisdom. Although these two are distinct in terms of their individual characteristics, in reality, the generation and completion stages are non-dual and inseparable. When this is particularly emphasized, we call it non-dual tantra. Generally, all tantric classes can be included within these 3 types of tantras. You may remember that in Longchenpa's Finding Comfort and Ease in the Nature of Mind, when discussing Vajrayana, he also emphasizes these 3 tantras: Father Tantra, Mother Tantra, and non-dual Tantra. For example, the Tantra that clearly reveals the magical body is the Guhyasamaja. The later translation schools today, like the Gelug school and others, including the Sakya and Kagyu schools, are mainly later translation schools. The earlier and later translation schools aren't divided based on sutra translations, but rather primarily based on Tantra translations. As I mentioned before, the later translation schools mainly focus on Father Tantras that emphasize method about the magical body. In the sutras, the magical body refers to the illusory dreamlike wisdom body. When this manifestation reaches a certain level, we can say the generation stage has been perfected. This is called Father Tantra, which is the Guhyasamaja. Many texts from the Gelug school, including the commentaries of Tsongkhapa and others, follow this approach. The Tantra emphasizing clear light is the Chakra Samvara. Here it says, emphasizing clear light. But actually, when determining wisdom, the primary emphasis is on emptiness. Determining emptiness means determining the completion stage. Among the later translation tantras, this is primarily the Chakra Samvara. Many monasteries are studying and contemplating the Chakra Samvara. This is a representative tantra, and all of these were taught by the Buddha. The tantra emphasizing the wisdom of union is the Kala Chakra. The generation and completion stages are non-dual, or wisdom and method are in union, or the magical body and clear light body are non-dual and inseparable. This type of tantra is called Kala Chakra. The Kala Chakra can be said to be the highest among all the later translation tantras. That's why nowadays many people speak highly of the Kala Chakra empowerment, whether in India, Tibetan region, the Han region, or many other places. This is because, from the later translation perspective, Kala Chakra is the highest teaching. In Tibetan Buddhism, the Jonang school places great emphasis on the Kala Chakra. The Gelug school also places great emphasis on the Kala Chakra. The Nyingma school also emphasizes the Kala Chakra, but places even greater emphasis on the Great Perfection. Back in 1986, His Holiness Jigme Phuntsok Rinpoche held an especially grand Kala Chakra empowerment at Larongar. It was probably the largest Kala Chakra empowerment in His Holiness's entire life. It was held in 1986, the year before going to Mount Wutai. Moreover, in Mipham Rinpoche's collected works, there are 2 large volumes of Kala Chakra commentary. Khenpo Kaba once gave us the oral transmission of it. He didn't explain it in detail, but just gave us the transmission. So the Kala Chakra is also extremely important. Given that the Kala Chakra is said to be a non-dual tantra, exclusively emphasizing that which is being illustrated, namely the genuine wisdom of union, why is the Kala Chakra so important? Actually, among all the later translation tantras, the Kala Chakra is highly revered, while among all the earlier translation tantras, it's the magical manifestation matrix, which is to say the secret essence tantra. The secret essence tantra is also a non-dual tantra. We can say the secret essence tantra is a non-dual tantra. Kala Chakra is a non-dual tantra emphasizing the genuine wisdom of union. It is referred to as the neutral state of Vajrasattva. Here, appearance and emptiness are non-dual and inseparable. Since it can be taught directly through the genuine wisdom of union, it's called the non-dual fruition of Vajrasattva and is known as non-dual tantra. Consequently, within the Nyingma scriptures on mantra, Mahayoga itself is divided into 3 classes, namely the Maha of Maha and so forth. In our earlier translation school, when discussing Tantras, as I mentioned yesterday, all these schools, all the yidams, mantras, and samadhis are all limitless emanations of the wisdom manifestation matrix, so there's really no distinction. However, when lineage is the primary consideration, then we must discuss lineage. For example, what has been transmitted in the Nyingma tradition must be recognized as a Nyingma tantric transmission. For example, what has been transmitted in the Tang esoteric Buddhism tradition must be recognized as a Tang esoteric Buddhism transmission. So in these matters, when distinctions should be upheld, we uphold them. When they shouldn't, there's no need to feel attachment or aversion toward each other. So here we discuss Mahayoga, Anuyoga, and Atiyoga. Actually, these later translation teachings I just mentioned, like Guhyasamaja, Chakra Samvara, and Kala Chakra, can be considered classifications within the Mahayoga of the earlier translation school. Mahayoga can be further divided into the Mahayoga of Mahayoga, the Anu Yoga of Mahayoga, and the Ati Yoga of Mahayoga. Actually, these three yogas, Mahayoga, Anu Yoga, and Ati Yoga, according to Longchenpa and other tantric explanations, Mahayoga is primarily for disciples with strong desire, teaching the generation stage as the main practice. This type of teaching is called Mahayoga. Anuyoga is for taming disciples whose anger is relatively strong, teaching the completion stage as the main practice. Such instructions are called Anuyoga. Atiyoga takes beings whose ignorance is relatively strong as its focus and directly teaches the non-dual primordial wisdom as the main practice. This type of teaching is called Atiyoga. There's also such an explanation. In the Terma teachings of the 8 sadhana teachings, Mahayoga is also divided into 3 types. Anuyoga is also divided into 3 types, and Atiyoga is also divided into 3 types. Each one is divided into 3 types. There are such classifications. Why divide them this way? These are explained in the later teachings. So indeed, for all of you here, having understanding of the tantric teachings is particularly important. During the Tang dynasty, the tantric teachings were very flourishing. Nowadays, I've met many scholars who specialize in studying Tang esoteric Buddhism. However, Tang esoteric Buddhism now has only theories and just a few rituals, along with some sutras and tantras that still remain, yet there is no transmission. This is the first issue. Second, many don't understand where the most essential core of Tang esoteric Buddhism lies. Without this knowledge, simply doing historical research or circulating texts doesn't mean the tantric teachings truly exist. In Tibetan region, the tantric teachings are indeed especially flourishing now. Moreover, both the Dharma lineages and the entire transmission continue unbroken to this day. Therefore, for many of you here, you also need to understand the basic principles of the tantric teachings. Once you understand the basic principles, you won't encounter obstacles in your own practice. Otherwise, some people nowadays just hear that the tantric teachings are very extraordinary, but what makes them so special? They can't explain it or even imagine it. They think, well, it seems Madhyamaka is profound. Tantric teachings are also very profound, so I guess they're probably similar, right? After all, they're all the Buddha's teachings anyway. Coming to conclusions with such vague thinking won't do. Therefore, I hope those who have great faith in the tantric teachings will understand not only the theory of the tantric teachings, but also the practice and gain some understanding of its skillful methods. Then the certainty in your mind will become irreversible. In our short human lives, if we want to study everything, the entire Kala Chakra, the 18 major Tantras, the 600,000 verses of the Great Perfection, studying all of these one by one, well, first, the texts aren't even available. Very few have been translated into Chinese now, and some that have been translated aren't always professional. Such situations exist. Our lives are very short, so it's really challenging. But Pith Instructions texts like Mifam Rinpoche's Beacon of Certainty have already openly revealed the most profound teachings and Pith Instructions of both Sutra and Tantra. Once you finish studying the essence of clear light, you'll gain a fresh understanding of Vajrayana's view, meditation, conduct, and fruition. I think this is particularly important right now. We've finished the first section, the various vast common tantras. The secret essence tantra can also be divided in this way. Second, the essential profound, uncommon tantras. Second, according to the profound, uncommon, specific approach, there are also 2, the tantric classes of the vast and those of the profound. For the first, there are the well-known great tantras of the 18 classes. The tantric classes of the profound isn't discussed here. Primarily the 8 great Vidyadharas, especially Guru Padmasambhava himself, manifested from their wisdom countless tantras and profound Terma Pith instructions. These were then concealed in snow mountains, lakes, in the expanse of space, forests, and even within rocks and other places. At that time, he entrusted them to certain fortunate masters, gave them empowerments, and instructed them that when conditions ripen in the future, these termas could be revealed. Moreover, at the same time, these profound teachings were entrusted to many non-humans, Dharma protectors, and various spirits who promised to protect them forever. After Guru Padmasambhava departed for the land of Rakshasas, treasure revealers have continually emerged throughout history and have revealed these previously hidden termas. All these teachings, primarily the 8 sadhana teachings, are called the near transmission of Dharma. The tantric transmission is called the distant transmission, which means from Samantabhadra down to the present lineage masters, the entire Dharma lineage has been transmitted continuously. This is called the distant transmission of Kama. As for the near transmission of the sadhanas, from Guru Padmasambhava's appearance until now, many treasure revealers have appeared in the world every few decades. There are also great masters guided by the emanation and wisdom bodies of Guru Padmasambhava, and masters like Vimalamitra, Sri Singha, and Jnana Sutra. Teachings that arise from the wisdom of these masters are called pure vision teachings, teachings arising from pure visions. Many of His Holiness Jigme Phuntsok Rinpoche's teachings are mind terma, which are also a form of pure vision teaching. In the Nyingma tradition, such teachings are indeed particularly abundant. Many people may not be aware of this, as we haven't yet had the opportunity to translate them all into Chinese. Otherwise, if Chinese translations were available, everyone would naturally develop joy and faith. This is called the near transmission of the sadhanas. However, the near transmission of the profound, uncommon sadhana class isn't extensively explained in the essence of Clear Light. It only covers the first one, the tantric classes of the vast, which refers to great tantras of the 18 classes. As for the great tantras of the 18 classes, the Khenpo and Zerpa lineages each have their own ways of categorizing them. I've also included annotations below that you can refer to when convenient. Among them, the basic or very essence is this secret essence Tantra. Tantra refers to Vajrayana teachings. The foundation or essence of all the great tantras of the 18 classes is the secret essence Tantra. Therefore, to study and contemplate all the tantric teachings now is indeed difficult, as I just mentioned. At the very least, once you finish studying the secret essence Tantra, the magical manifestation matrix, you'll have a basic understanding of Vajrayana theory, as well as its essential practice, instructions, and foundations. There should be no problem. If one wonders why these tantras are so uncommon and profound, since we just said these are uncommon and profound teachings, some may ask, why are they called uncommon and profound? It is because in order to unerringly comprehend the crucial wisdom intent of all inner classes of secret mantra, these are the tantras that must be relied upon. This means if you want to fully comprehend the vast essential instructions of all Vajrayana, to truly realize them, you must rely on the secret essence Tantra. Without the wisdom of the secret essence Tantra, even though you can study other teachings, truly comprehending them remains very difficult. Many of you here can probably feel this. Other sutra teachings or theoretical approaches, while certainly profound and extraordinary, may take many detours when exploring the true nature of mind. But the tantric teachings, especially the secret essence Tantra, directly reveal to you the true nature of mind without any concealment. That's also why it's called secret. Although all categories of unsurpassed mantra are similar in how they bring aspirants to maturity through the 4 empowerments and how the key points are internalized through the path of the 2 stages, actually all unsurpassed tantric teachings, Kriya Tantra and Upatantra, aren't called unsurpassed tantric teachings. All unsurpassed tantric teachings are the same. They all require 4 empowerments. The teachings we're discussing now are unsurpassed tantric teachings. To receive unsurpassed tantric teachings, you must have received the 4 empowerments. Without the 4 empowerments, this is not permitted. Moreover, there are also corresponding empowerments required for teaching them. For example, in the Secret Essence Tantra, during empowerments, there are specifically empowerments for listening, empowerments for teaching, empowerments for practice, the universal sovereign empowerment, and so forth. After receiving some empowerments, you can listen. After receiving some empowerments, you can practice. After receiving some empowerments, not only can you practice, but you can also teach others. After receiving some empowerments, not only can you teach others, but you can also engage in the limitless activities of Vajrayana, all the activities of pacifying, increasing, magnetizing, and subjugating. This time I didn't specifically give you the magical manifestation matrix empowerment. Within the magical manifestation matrix, there are many such empowerments, but this time the empowerment I'm giving you is higher than the magical manifestation matrix, the Manjushri Great Perfection Empowerment. Although the Great Perfection Empowerment doesn't have such gradual levels, the highest level, the fourth empowerment, already encompasses the lower ones. For example, this empowerment doesn't proceed through first grade, second grade, third grade, but the sixth grade curriculum already encompasses all the lower levels. Without progressing through each level, but having already entered the sixth grade classroom, you've already passed the previous grades. You're already qualified. So all unsurpassed tantric teachings require the 4 levels of empowerment. Only after being matured through the 4 empowerments can you truly penetrate to the essential points and practice the generation and completion stages. Actually, regarding the generation stage, you should understand clearly that it involves a mind that fabricates or a mind that grasps. Practicing the deity visualization or emptiness in this way is called the generation stage. Ultimately, continuously practicing emptiness or deity with an effortless, unfabricated mind is called the completion stage. We can also explain it this way. At that time, the generation stage is actually practicing the deity. I visualize myself as Vajrasattva. This is called the generation stage. While visualizing Vajrasattva, I also visualize the channels in my body, the essential drops, and the vital winds. All these detailed practices are the completion stage. So in any unsurpassed tantric teaching, there are relatively complex practices of the generation and completion stages, but these aren't found in Kriya Tantra and Upatantra. The other day, I went through a large amount of Tang esoteric Buddhism materials, including some rituals, the Susiddhikara Sutra, and many others, but I basically couldn't find anything like the unsurpassed tantric teachings, those especially advanced direct meditation practices. Why? Because they're not unsurpassed tantric teachings. If they're not unsurpassed tantric teachings, these practices won't be present. You won't find these in Tang esoteric Buddhism. Why is it that when you visualize yourself as Vajrasattva, you'll truly become Vajrasattva in the future, and your negative karma will be purified? Why does practicing channels, winds, and drops in this way lead to realization? These crucial points are explained in the Secret Essence Tantra. This is very important. Some people might not be able to explain why they practice visualization every day. I visualize myself as Amitabha. I visualize myself as Vajrasattva. This is generation stage practice. But does this generation stage mean I'm visualizing something that isn't actually Vajrasattva as Vajrasattva? If that's the case, as explained in the Beacon of Certainty, it's like a vase filled with impure filth inside. No matter how beautifully you decorate the outside, the inside remains impure. If the inside is impure, then visualizing the impure as pure is an inverted method of practice. But the Secret Essence Tantra explains this principle clearly. Why should we visualize ourselves as Vajrasattva? Because we are already completely pure by nature. We're non-dual and inseparable from the Tathagata's wisdom and Buddha nature. It's just that beings haven't realized this truth. This explanation isn't just empty words. Actually, it can completely withstand scrutiny both theoretically and experientially. This is where the excellence of the Secret Essence Tantra lies. Otherwise, others might say that in other Qigong practices or other practices, people often say, you can visualize a spirit and become it. You can become whatever you visualize. It's not that simple. So here we must understand these pith instructions. However, in the majority of other tantras, only the practice of deity and mantra, as well as the methods that emphasize the crucial point of the channels, winds, and essential fluids of the completion. These practices have also been taught in other tantras. For example, in Indian yoga, in Chinese Han Buddhism, and in Theravada traditions, there are also practices such as contemplating impurity, reciting deity mantras, and visualizing deities. These can all be considered practice methods. Completion stage practices involving winds and drops are also often found in Theravada traditions. For example, in texts like the Agama Sutras and the Sutra of Right Mindfulness of Dharma, there are also visualizations of winds and similar practices. These skillful means all exist. But the crucial point for all of those practices lies in knowing the view of the great purity and evenness of phenomenal existence and the manner through which genuine wisdom is directly introduced through illustration. That which is otherwise hidden within the Vajra words is clearly illuminated in these tantras. This is extremely important. Please remember this well. In other tantras, there are also practices of yoga, mantra recitation, and visualizing the channels, winds, and drops of the completion stage. These all exist. What is the essence of all these when traced to their root? It's the great purity and evenness of phenomenal existence. Phenomenal existence refers to all phenomena of samsara and nirvana. These are called phenomena existence. Great purity and evenness will be explained when we discuss the view later. In Madhyamaka, the term evenness refers to emptiness. It primarily addresses the ultimate emptiness of all phenomena. In the Secret Essence Tantra, it primarily addresses the primordial purity of all phenomena. The emptiness of Madhyamaka and the primordial purity taught in Vajrayana, the view of these two, as well as the genuine wisdom of clear light being illustrated. The genuine wisdom of clear light being illustrated. This is what the fourth empowerment indicates. The truly most profound wisdom, the inexpressible wisdom of the Tathagata. The inexpressible wisdom of the Tathagata and the view of the equal purity of all phenomena, these two exist only implicitly in other tantras. You see, in the sutra teachings, there's basically nothing like this. Only in Madhyamaka do we discuss some aspects of emptiness. In texts like the Uttara Tantra and the Nirvana Sutra, we only discuss Buddha nature, but how exactly is Buddha nature pure? How is each being's mind stream pure? There aren't particularly clear pith instructions on this. Not to mention in the sutra teachings, even in considerable portions of Vajrayana teachings such as Tang Esoteric Buddhism and other outer Tantra classes, and in the Father and Mother Tantras we just discussed, Chakra Samvara and Guhya Samaja, these topics are only slightly mentioned through Vajra words, but they're not actually explained in detail. That is clearly illuminated in these tantras. These tantras refer to the Kala Chakra Tantra and also the Secret Essence Tantra, which is the magical manifestation matrix. Of course, more importantly, the Great Perfection Tantras. In the Tantras of the Great Perfection, this has been pointed out very clearly and directly. So why are the Tantric teachings so extraordinary? This is exactly why they're so profound. We can't just say the Tantric teachings are very extraordinary. Why are they extraordinary? I can't really explain it. I've just heard they're extraordinary. My guru said they're extraordinary, so they must be. That certainly won't work. The Tantric teachings are extraordinary because the true nature of mind and clear light are non-dual and inseparable in essence. In other tantras and other pith instructions, they're not directly revealed to you. But in the Great Perfection, without many roundabout explanations, it's told to you directly and straightforwardly. As the Kala Chakra states, why is the Kala Chakra so extraordinary? The Kala Chakra is extraordinary because in the Kala Chakra Vajrapani openly reveals crucial points that are otherwise hidden within the Vajra words. Hence, that Tantra is referred to as that which opens the precious vessel of Buddhahood. What Vajradhara clearly reveals is what's hidden within the Vajra words. What the Tathagata Vajradhara taught, whether the genuine wisdom of clear light being illustrated or the principles of great purity and great equality, these crucial points are hidden within the Vajra words. Now, these crucial points have been clearly illuminated in the Kala Chakra. Popal call this that which opens the precious vessel of Buddhahood. The precious vessel bestowed by the Buddha has been opened. So this is why when people hear about a Kala Chakra empowerment, everyone rushes to buy plane tickets to attend. And many people who can't go feel deeply envious. Actually, the empowerments for the true Kala Chakra and Secret Essence Tantra are extremely important. But for the Kala Chakra, many of the practice texts still haven't been translated into Chinese. Moreover, these practice methods aren't as straightforward as those of the Secret Essence Tantra. To practice them is, I would say, quite difficult. We also studied before, Mipham Rinpoche has a simplified instruction on the Kala Chakra 6-branch yoga. But after we studied this instruction, much of it still remained rather unclear. Perhaps it's a matter of capacity. It's not as direct as the Great Perfection and Magical Manifestation Matrix. Originally, when I was writing the Tibetan commentary on His Holiness's The Heart Essence, My Heart's Advice, while writing the commentary, His Holiness said its completion stage should be explained according to the completion stage of the Kala Chakra. So I went through many Kala Chakra commentaries, including those by Taranatha of the Jonang school, who was deeply learned in Kala Chakra. I also went through many of his pith instructions and so forth. But the more I looked, the more I felt it was particularly complex and difficult to understand. That was my feeling. Even so, in the end, I still wrote it down based on the Kala Chakra instructions. But I felt the magical manifestation matrix and great perfection are very direct. The practice isn't particularly complex. That was my feeling. Why do people say the Kala Chakra is so extraordinary? Everyone calls it that which opens the precious vessel of Buddhahood. Once this precious vessel is opened, anyone can enjoy it inexhaustibly. This occurs as follows. The essence of the path of the Vajra vehicle is the wisdom of the fourth empowerment. The fourth empowerment, we call it the word empowerment or the great bliss empowerment. That is, through a method of indication, we recognize the true nature of our own minds. This is actually the meaning of the fourth empowerment. You all know that generally, any guru gives the vase empowerment, the secret empowerment, and the wisdom empowerment, and then the word empowerment. The word empowerment is actually very simple. It's recognizing the nature of mind. So why is the Kala Chakra so extraordinary? The reason is that it directly teaches the meaning of the fourth empowerment. It directly teaches its original clear light. Other vehicles merely state the fourth resembles that. By other vehicles, I mean Tantras like the Guhyasamaja. In the Guhyasamaja, it's not clearly stated. It only states that the fourth empowerment is also like this, because the third empowerment has already been explained. After explaining the third empowerment, the fourth empowerment isn't directly stated. The fourth empowerment is also like this. It's only hinted during the third empowerment without openly revealing it. After the third empowerment is complete, they hint indirectly. Just as you recognize the nature in the third empowerment, the fourth empowerment is also like this. Actually, the fourth empowerment is the most extraordinary. Consequently, some Indian masters teaching these tantras assumed that the wisdom of the fourth empowerment amounted to the mere bliss of union, a kind of feeling from the union of male and female. In India, among those masters who explained the meaning being illustrated in the tantras, these masters also had different explanations. Some masters held that the wisdom of the fourth empowerment was merely a kind of union or a kind of blissful feeling. Some thought this way. Some held it was the mind free from attachment, like the wisdom of the Shravakas and Pratyeka Buddhas, who are free from all worldly desires. This kind of mind, this kind of wisdom, believing that the highest state is like the wisdom of Shravakas and Pratyeka Buddhas, a mind without any attachment to the world. Some held it was the state of emptiness, a kind of mere emptiness, grasping at emptiness as if nothing exists at all. I've noticed that nowadays in the Han region, a few Dharma teachers from Buddhist academies think the highest state in Vajrayana is that everything is emptiness. In the sutra teachings, what's the highest state described in the Diamond Sutra? Everything is empty. We call that aspect of non-existence emptiness. In that case, mere emptiness has indirectly become a kind of solid existence. Such a view is not at all the state of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. If we also close our eyes and think all phenomena are empty, nothing exists, would our present mental state realize emptiness? Would it? It's impossible. So some people consider the meaning of this fourth empowerment to be a state of emptiness and so forth. Such diverse assumptions are clearly refuted in the commentary on the 7 aspects of union. Actually, there was an Indian master named Aurangzeba who wrote the commentary on the 7 aspects of union. The 7 aspects of union refers to 7 symbols of complete enjoyment. Complete enjoyment is actually a kind of Sambhogakaya Tantra. In its commentary, and in Indrabhuti's Proving Wisdom and others, these are clearly refuted. They say, great bliss wisdom is definitely not something impermanent. Ordinary worldly blissful feelings are impermanent. The mind free from desire is a kind of grasping. Clinging to emptiness is actually a conceptual thought, so these are definitely not great bliss wisdom. Actually, true great bliss wisdom is wisdom that's free from all worldly impermanence and contaminated suffering. Many people must understand this. Otherwise, some who practice Vajrayana, including some gurus with their disciples, fall into deviant paths. To please their disciples, they engage in all sorts of improper behaviors. For example, they think the so-called great bliss wisdom is a kind of joy in their minds, or a kind of pleasure from bodily sense contact. These are all contaminated and impermanent. If this were great bliss, then all worldly beings would be enjoying great bliss. Then there's no need to specifically practice Vajrayana. Actually, every day these people are already immersed in all sorts of pleasurable feelings, desire, anger, and ignorance. Everyone occasionally has these pleasurable feelings. Why bother practicing Vajrayana? So such views are completely unreasonable and are also an extreme insult and slander to the Dharma. We must be very careful. Otherwise, even some so-called Vajrayana disciples don't truly have the Vajrayana view. They have no idea what great bliss wisdom actually is. Maybe if the guru gives you a piece of candy, oh, that's great bliss wisdom. Put on new clothes, that's also great bliss wisdom. Well, then anyone can enjoy great bliss wisdom. By that logic, even an elephant taking a bath would be experiencing great bliss wisdom. Eventually, many behaviors are led astray into what's improper. So these Indian masters put a stop to this at that time, stopping and refuting these misunderstandings about great bliss wisdom in Vajrayana. Even these days in Tibetan region, there are those who disparage the Upadeshas that introduce the wisdom of the fourth empowerment. For example, in the Gelug school back then, people like Dra Gungthang and Pa Bonka were extremely critical of the great perfection. The reason for their criticism was that some people simply couldn't accept the genuine wisdom taught in the word empowerment of the unsurpassed profound tantric teachings. Generally speaking, certain individuals simply couldn't accept it, so at that time they tried to suppress it with various arguments. Later, masters like Sokdokpa debated extensively with them. The first Dudjom Rinpoche also refuted them in his Nyingma school of Tibetan Buddhism, its fundamentals and history. In that history, there's a special chapter addressing many people's misunderstandings about Vajrayana and lack of understanding, explaining these issues and extensively refuting their wrong views. Some people assert that newly uniting the feeling of bliss with notions of emptiness constitutes the konati and so forth. Just as I mentioned earlier, thinking ordinary worldly pleasurable feelings are emptiness, this is certainly wrong. If it were emptiness, there was a great master who specifically refuted this, saying if that were emptiness, just at the beginning when I eat something or enjoy some worldly pleasure, and then afterward consider it as emptiness, if this were great bliss wisdom, it would be completely unreasonable. For example, it's like the body has already been wounded and then putting on armor afterward. There are many such analogies. This is absolutely unreasonable. Just having some worldly grasping beforehand and then clinging to that as emptiness, that's definitely not any great bliss wisdom. So in Tibetan region, some individuals also have such explanations, considering it connate wisdom and so forth. Many erroneous theories have appeared. That is why the Kalachakra Tantra addresses the issue of the genuine connate being illustrated, namely the non-dual wisdom kaya of unchanging bliss. As I just mentioned, unchanging great bliss wisdom is wisdom free from all worldly contaminated defilements. Actually, this kind of great bliss isn't some worldly conceptual thought like, I'm so happy, so joyful. Worldly people go to a flower garden to take a photo. Wow, I'm so happy today. This flower is so beautiful, and so on. It's not that kind. In practice, it's the great bliss that comes from completely realizing the nature of all phenomena. It's not the worldly feeling of being very happy in your mind. Some people in meditation don't grasp at anything, experience a temporary absence of all afflictions, and think they've realized great bliss. Actually, this isn't it either. It's merely a state where conceptual thoughts have temporarily dissolved into the alaya. If you don't understand these principles of Vajrayana, many of these states aren't actually very good. What the Kalachakra speaks of as unchanging great bliss, emptiness that possesses the supreme of all aspects. The emptiness that possesses the supreme of all aspects is also discussed in the Uttara Tantra. It's the emptiness of Buddha nature's clear light endowed with the great compassion of skillful means, not just mere emptiness. The non-dual wisdom kaya, the connate wisdom being illustrated, this all-pervasive, space-like vajra nature that transcends the phenomena of substance and mind. These are all different expressions from the kala chakra for the highest state. For example, the highest state is also called seeing the nature of mind, or suchness, or dharma dhatu. In the sutra teachings, this state also has different names. So it can also be called unchanging great bliss, or emptiness possessing the supreme of all aspects, also called non-dual wisdom kaya, and also the connate wisdom being illustrated. Because this is connate wisdom, everyone can possess it. But many people don't understand and wander in samsara. It transcends form and mind. Form refers to the object grasped, and mind refers to the grasping mind. Free from all form and mental defilements, this all-pervasive space-like vajra, these are also terms from the Kala Chakra. This is clearly illuminated in that Tantra itself, as well as in its commentary, Proving Wisdom and others. Since this is a sacred upadesha, it must permeate the crucial wisdom intent of all classes of Tantra. So what the Kala Chakra teaches is extremely important. It's for this reason there's the well-known quote, "A tantra must be known through other tantras." Actually, some tantras are understood through other tantras. For example, the wisdom intent of the Kala Chakra is understood through the magical manifestation matrix tantra. The wisdom intent of the magical manifestation matrix is understood through other texts like the Kala Chakra and Great Perfection Tantras. This is very important. Given that this great Tantra openly reveals the crucial points of the view and meditation of unsurpassed mantra, refers to the secret essence Tantra, which is the magical manifestation matrix Tantra. Without any concealment, it reveals all the crucial points of view and meditation of the unsurpassed Tantras. In this Tantra, it precisely determines the genuine wisdom intent of the entire Vajrayana vehicle. After studying and contemplating this, you should all have this feeling. It's as if all the tantras suddenly become clear, as if obstacles blocking your view have been removed. So in many commentaries on the Secret Essence Tantra, there are different words of praise. In some tantras, the Secret Essence Tantra, the magical manifestation matrix, is praised with 8 different qualities. Some use 7 different qualities to praise it. It's the single most precious jewel within the 3 worlds. This is like a wish-fulfilling jewel. This Tantra is the single wish-fulfilling jewel within the 3 times. Just as a wish-fulfilling jewel bestows all siddhis, once we've studied this Tantra, it bestows both temporary and ultimate siddhis. It's worthy of being the king of all Tantras, like the sun disk radiating brilliant light. It's the king of all Tantras. This magical manifestation matrix Tantra is the king of all Tantras, because the content below, including the Shravaka vehicle and other sutra teachings, cannot pose any threat to it. Moreover, the content taught in this Tantra can completely pervade all the lower vehicles. Just as a king can subdue the people below cannot oppose the king. Between a king and ministers, it's also like this. When the sun's rays shine, all other lights naturally become obscured. This is such an analogy. This is the second analogy. The third one is the pinnacle of all vehicles. All the 8 vehicles or other vehicles all have the secret essence Tantra of the magical manifestation matrix as their pinnacle. This uses the analogy of a mountain peak. When you reach the peak of Mount Sumeru, all other mountains can be seen clearly. Similarly, the view and practice of this Tantra can encompass the content of all other vehicles. It's the source of all doctrines. Here it uses space as an analogy. Space pervades all phenomena. There's an explanation that goes like this. Wind wheels form in space, rain falls on the wind wheels, water wheels appear, then earth wheels, and from the earth wheels all things can arise. So the source of everything is actually space. The source of all other teachings, the Buddhist teachings of sutras and tantras, is the magical manifestation matrix. Through the blessing and power of merit of the tantras, all other teachings are manifested. It's the general commentary on all scriptures. The general commentary on all doctrines uses the unobstructed nature of space as an analogy. These explanations are all found in Rongzom Pandita and Minling Loken's commentaries on the tantras. but I read them many years ago and have forgotten. This time I didn't have time to check each one either. That's roughly how it is. I had memorized them all back then. When I went to India, I heard Khenpo Namdrol was very proficient in the magical manifestation matrix. I kept asking him to give me the transmission. Every time we were together, when His Holiness went to many places, I sort of forced him as a persistent disciple. I kept requesting him, but he didn't teach extensively at that time. Every day he'd read a little, then doze off, drink a little coffee. These analogies from the Tantra, they're all found in Minling Lochan's commentary. Once you understand the magical manifestation matrix, it is the general commentary on all pith instruction tantras. Just like once you understand the root verses of the middle way, other Madhyamaka texts naturally become easy to understand. So once you've mastered this Tantra, there's absolutely no problem with the most essential points of all other vehicles. It's the swift path of all Buddhas. This uses a great path as an analogy. All Buddhas manifest enlightenment through this path, and the sacred goal of their wisdom intent. What's the analogy for this? I've forgotten. The sacred goal of all Tathagatas is in the magical manifestation matrix Tantra. It possesses such marvelous and excellent qualities. The crucial points revealed in this Tantra are not to be found elsewhere. Some texts are carelessly composed by authors who extract some profound Vajra words from the Tantras and intellectually interpret them according to the capacity of their own minds. They become like lifeless corpses, devoid of real meaning. We should understand this. If we don't have the truly profound, crucial points taught in this Tantra, but merely rely on our own limited intellect and conceptual thoughts to explain or compose treatises, those treatises are actually just conceptual thoughts. They don't have any real meaning. Actually, in our study and contemplation, I always feel this way. When I go to some schools or other places to teach, to initially draw them into the Dharma, I talk about worldly matters, how to deal with emotions, how to overcome depression, and so on. To be honest, I don't particularly enjoy talking about these things, because these topics are rather basic. There isn't that much depth to explore. But if I don't address them, it's difficult to connect with the audience. In some schools, there are mainly two things students really care about. One is how to find a job. The other is how to handle future relationships and family life. Many students are particularly interested in these two things. Beyond that, if I talk about past and future lives, if I talk about the preciousness of human life, and then talk about tantric teachings and tantras, it's hard to keep them engaged. Like many worldly books and writings based on conceptual thoughts, not to mention television and movies, these don't really have much depth. In the Tantras, once one has departed from such tantric teachings, superficially they are practicing generation stage and completion stage. There seem to be many practices, but without such pith instructions, it's like a corpse without life. A lifeless corpse has no vitality. It's not dignified. It doesn't offer much substance. So indeed, in study and contemplation, these most essential instructions, if you all have faith in these, it's actually very necessary. What it says here is that without the pith instructions of the magical manifestation matrix or the great perfection, composing many other treatises relying solely on conceptual thinking is like a lifeless body. In the past, Kedrup J also said that nowadays more and more treatises based on wrong views and conceptual thoughts are appearing. At that time, in the debate between Mifam Rinpoche and a Geshe named Rasa, they quoted this. At that time, it probably wasn't very serious. The Buddha Dharma in Tibetan region was still very flourishing at that time, but now indeed, in Tibetan region, such phenomena exist. When discussing tantric teachings, many people show no interest, but when discussing topics like world peace, democracy, or cloned sheep or something, when you talk about these things, many young people say, wow, how is this researched? They're very interested. So sometimes many treatises based on wrong views. If you look at some large bookstores, they're all filled with all sorts of books based on conceptual thoughts. These tend to be temporarily eye-catching and might temporarily help ease some mental discomfort. But they don't really address deeper issues. So in that sense, we could say these treatises lack vital essence. They don't offer lasting meaning. Going forward, focusing on the great perfection is most beneficial. Knowing this, fortunate ones with exceptional interest and yearning for the Vajrayana, This refers to those who have an especially uncommon joy and faith in the great perfection, those who have a karmic connection, in order to obtain such a Tantra, whether teaching such a Tantra or receiving such a Tantra oneself. They must be persistent in their efforts, directed toward learning and teaching this Tantra without regard for their own bodies or even their lives. Indeed, although it may be very hard, very painful, involving sickness and so on to obtain such Dharma, striving with all our effort is truly worthwhile. Just like worldly people nowadays, for some temporary benefits, for example, for certain bodily Qigong practices, they spend a great deal of money to go somewhere and stay for a month, 3 months for training. They become very thin, yet they feel they've gained a lot and so forth. Actually, these might have a tiny bit of benefit temporarily. Including nowadays many training programs, both domestically and internationally, they all cost a lot of money. Sometimes when I see these, I wonder, do they have any real meaning? What truly has meaning is like the great masters of the past, for the sake of the truly supreme, unsurpassed tantric teachings, to sacrifice one's life and body willingly. Those who teach should be like this. Those who learn should also be like this. Indeed, for such profound Dharma teachings, it is worthwhile to sacrifice everything. In the beginning, when I first looked at these Vajra words, I still had great faith. For a long time after that, I didn't look at them. I hope that during the course of listening to the teachings, if you happen to get sick or encounter difficulties, don't push yourself too hard either. Like Khenpo Jicheng, who has been sick but kept persisting in attending classes, today I told him to go down the mountain to see a doctor and rest. Otherwise, if some people are too tough, it's not necessarily very good either. But if there's nothing special, you all should persist in attending classes diligently. Wow, it's snowing today. It's too cold. I'll just stay at home and not go to the Dharma hall. Or saying, my head hurts a little today. I won't go to class. Don't treat this like ordinary worldly classes. This is extremely, extremely important. 20 days. If we say it's long, it is very long. But if we say it's short, 2 days of these 20 have already passed. Now, there are only 18 days left. 18 days is very short. You don't need to sacrifice your lives and bodies. You should just diligently listen and receive the teachings. Please think carefully about this. Mifam Rinpoche's Vajra words, my explanations may not capture their full depth. But if you look at them carefully again and again, you'll find there are truly some very profound teachings here.
Bandhangara Padmasada Bandhangara Padmasada